So we're taking a little bit of a break. Cassie just testified for about an hour and a half. She walked in with a brown fitted dress on. She was clearly visibly pregnant. She began by talking about how frequently she was abused when asked by prosecutors. She said things like too frequently, and said that she had knots on her head before, busted lips, swollen lip, bruises, that these things were normal for her. When asked about what is a freak off, she talked about it being an experience where Combs watched Ventura have sex with other men, and she said that she learned about this concept within the first year of their relationship. Why she went along with it. When asked that question, she said, I was 22. I felt a sense of responsibility. I was confused, nervous, wanted to make him happy. So this is only the first hour and a half of her testimony. We're taking a lunch break, but when we come back, I'm sure we'll get more into the details of their relationship. Remember though, this is a case about a criminal enterprise racketeering. So they're laying the foundation as to the relationship between Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura, Cassandra Ventura, but it's moving kind of slow right now, but we'll be providing another update when we get more information.
But today's revelations made jaws drop all over again. Private emails, explosive testimony, and a new mystery witness under federal protection. What happened in court today could change the entire trial. We start with something that's raising serious eyebrows in this case. Cassie's former assistant, referred to as Mia, is set to testify under federal protection. According to courtroom updates, Mia will remain fully shielded from the public. No cameras, no sketches, not even her name spoken aloud. There will be privacy screens in place and heavy security for her entrance and exit. But why so much secrecy? According to Cassie's testimony, Mia may have seen more than anyone else. She reportedly witnessed violent outbursts, controlled tactics, and even suffered abuse herself. And if she speaks, she could help prosecutors connect everything: the assistants, the employees, the bad boy empire. Cassie might be a victim, but Mia may be the insider who knows where all the secrets are buried.
Here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse today, Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Well, Diddy docket, civil and criminal, of course. Yet we're live tweeting the criminal trial of Sean Combs. Yesterday, they finished with the male dancer Daniel Phillip, and then Cassie took the stand. It was really, it was something.
Court also heard chilling emails Cassie sent to her mother, emails warning about the possibility that explicit footage of her would be leaked. In one, she described living in constant fear. According to her testimony, Diddy threatened to release videos if she disobeyed him or tried to leave. She told the court that she was being blackmailed into silence, fearing not just for her own reputation, but for her safety and her mother's.
Once he saw Diddy beat Cassie, he could no longer, perform and be engaged, because before he said even if they hadn't paid him, he was excited to be part of their world. He was enjoying that kind of activity with them. And then things started changing when he saw one time he was on the couch, Cassie was at her computer, and Diddy, he said, was in Cassie's bedroom. Now, Diddy apparently called out to Cassie to come into the bedroom, and she allegedly told him, just hold on a second, my personal information's on the computer. Now, Daniel describes being absolutely shocked when all of a sudden a liquor bottle, Diddy throws it from across the room right toward Cassie, and then he comes running towards her, grabs her by her hair, drags her into her bedroom and tells her, when I tell you to come, you don't wait, you just come when I tell you. And he says he then heard, after the doors closed, Diddy slapping her, beating her, yelling at her, and Cassie screaming out, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he says he was just kind of frozen in place. He didn't know what to do. And prosecutors asked him, why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you go inside? And he said, look, I know this is somebody with a lot of resources. Quite frankly, I was afraid for my life. Now that drew a lot of objections from the defense. But the judge allowed that testimony. And he again reiterated that he was scared in that moment for Cassie, feeling like she was in a dangerous situation, but he didn't feel it was safe enough for him to intervene.
One of the most talked about moments in court came when Cassie discussed her short-lived relationship with Kid Cutie. According to her, Diddy's jealousy turned to fury. She said he told her point blank that he would have Cutie's car blown up, with people watching. Soon after, she returned to a hotel room, only to find it vandalized beyond belief. Feces smeared on the walls, furniture destroyed, urine on the floor. While she couldn't prove who did it, the message was clear. No one was safe. Cassie also recounted multiple incidents where Diddy allegedly attacked his own employees. She told the court about one case where he punched an employee in the head for no reason. On a separate occasion, she claims he dragged his assistant, Mia, out of bed and onto a balcony because she didn't hand over her phone. These incidents, if true, show a pattern of not just personal abuse, but workplace violence and intimidation. And remember, this matters for the RICO case. Because if Diddy was running an empire of fear that extended beyond Cassie, then this goes beyond just a domestic abuse trial.
Male escorts, while he watched, sometimes sitting in the corner and masturbating. Through tears, she said she took drugs to numb herself, ecstasy, cocaine, and ketamine, all of it allegedly supplied by Diddy. She said the freak-offs included as many as 4 male escorts at once, and typically lasted 36 to 72 hours. The longest, she said, the longest freak-off that she says she was forced to perform in lasted 4 days. She said they took place around the world, from New York to Miami to Spain, to even Turks and Caicos. And at every stop, Cassie said the hotel rooms were stocked by Diddy's staff with baby oil, condoms, and drugs. And she says that these hotel rooms, this is disgusting, the hotel rooms were left covered in baby oil and covered in blood and covered in urine. Cassie told the jury that the freak-offs made her feel disgusting and humiliated and worthless. But she said she couldn't say no because she says Diddy threatened to release videos.
In court, Cassie also explained how her eventual 2023 lawsuit came to be. She had started writing chapters about her life as part of therapy, processing her trauma through storytelling. But when she sent some of those chapters to Diddy, she says he ignored them. Eventually, she threatened legal action and talks began around a potential settlement. It started at $30 million, but ended in a rapid $20 million payout the very next day after the lawsuit was filed. She signed an NDA, but because crimes were committed, she's now legally allowed to testify in court and tell her story. And yes, her book is still expected to be published.
Of the freak-offs with her.
Just before they broke for lunch, Cassie Ventura described how freak-offs actually became a job, lasting 36 to 48 hours, the longest one lasting up to 4 days. No wonder the participants needed IV fluids after a freak-off. I'm just curious, to Lauren Cullen joining us at the courthouse, how was the jury responding?
What I will say is Cassie made a point to say that when she wasn't making music, she was actually having to, quote, recover from these freak-offs. And again, she did say these freak-offs lasted between 1 and 4 days, and it would take her an equal amount of time to get her body recovered, to rehydrate, to rest, to detox from these drugs. It was really...
Even after they officially split, Cassie says the control didn't stop. She claims Diddy continued sending messages, demanding money, referencing past relationships, and trying to insert himself into her new life. This included messages involving her now husband, Alex Fine, whom Diddy had previously hired as a personal trainer. According to Cassie, Diddy demanded she pay him back for Alex's sessions. A man worth hundreds of millions, obsessing over a few $1,000s just to maintain power over someone who had already moved on.
And then the witnesses began. There was first the LAPD officer who went to the 6th floor among the famous kicking incident. And it turns out that he filmed his own version of the security camera footage and preserved it for, he was going to just show his wife, but he preserved it for eternity. Now, the cross-examination of him was done by Brian Steele, who tried to point out various inconsistencies of things that he hadn't put in his written report at the time, but only remembered later while speaking to the prosecutors. It wasn't a bad cross at all. Coming off his young thug work, score 1 for Brian Steele. Now the next witness was I'm called him male dancer, but his last name was Philip, not with an S. And this is where it got pretty gruesome. Not gruesome. I mean, yes, gruesome. He was invited up and began to perform. But he stopped being able to perform once he saw the violence. He said he was a kind of a compelling character in a way. Now, the defense chose to have Xavier Donaldson, who I like and know quite well. I mean, I cover him more than these other lawyers because he's on the CJA panel and represents many criminal defendants here in SDNY as appointed counsel. He's taken a kind of his first line of attack was to try to say that the male escort or exotic dancing firm of Mr. Phillip games SEO, so he must be a fraudster. That's not really going far. He didn't finish his cross, and it's going to begin today. And we're coming up on the courthouse. You're going to see the madness in front. So we'll see what he does. And today is going to be the day of Cassie Ventura. So this is a longer than normal intro, but it's a case that we're covering in great detail.
Cassie Ventura just named Christina Quorum as keeping tabs on her for Diddy.
The court also heard heartbreaking details about the emotional toll this all took on Cassie. In 2023, while Diddy was receiving a major music industry award and even thanked her in his acceptance speech, Cassie said she was battling serious mental health struggles. She was undergoing trauma therapy, suffering from PTSD, and at one point told her husband she didn't want to live anymore. This is a woman who had a family, a new life, but the emotional chains of the past still had a grip on her. She felt unworthy, dirty, and broken. Her words.
Ask you about this upcoming Diddy trial that's coming up in a few days. I think it's coming up in about 4 or 5 days. How you feel about Cassie testifying against Diddy?
Yes, sir. First of all, it should be absolutely illegal for Cassie to testify against Diddy. When he paid her off, I believe there was an NDA involved in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away. After all the money he paid her, after her signing an NDA, how can she then be brought back into court to testify against him? It reminds me of Bill Cosby. Some of those women who lied on Bill Cosby during his abuse cases had NDAs, and the court let them break the NDA. You never see this with a white man accused of the same. You never see this with a Caucasian accused of the same. His lawyer should do all that they can to fight against Cassie testifying. She wasn't sex trafficked. So why are you testifying in a sex trafficking case? He is not being charged with crimes against Cassie. He's being charged with crimes against others. Cassie was paid and dismissed. Why is she being brought back into court after taking that man's money and testifying against him? That right there is clearly an excessive and abusive use of the law. Absolutely wrong. I do not like it. As far as Puffy asking for his case to be delayed, I agree with that. Remember, one of his lawyers recused himself, okay, at least one of them. So he probably has, some new people on his legal team. They got to get reacclimated and get caught up with what's going on. And I saw nothing wrong with him asking for a 2-month delay. He's already in jail. Y'all didn't give him bail, which I also think is a violation of his constitutional rights. So he should have got the 8-week delay. But here we go again. Deion Sanders. We want him.
Impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Because I'm a black man.
You can be scared.
I have so many other things to be fearful of. A clown is not going to scare me.
Really?
Yes. I'm not afraid of clowns.
But I heard that you were.
You need to take his counsel advice. Because if he think he's going to get out of this from the federal government, he out his mind. They in the process of plea bargaining, trying to do a plea bargain session with him, and he not taking it. That's probably why one of the lawyers jumped off the case. Remember Benjamin Bradford, his first lawyer with the Cassie situation? He said, give her the $10 million and make this go away, brother. He ended up giving her $30 million. He's not taking the lawyer's advice. 9 times out of 10, they probably got him a good plea bargain. Yo, listen to me, we can give you 15 years. 10 or 15 years. You do that, you come out, you only have to do like 12, 13. Come off to a halfway house. You still can live some of your life out as a free man. He don't want to hear it. So it is what it is. the federal government do not want to go to court. 9 times out of 10, they want a plea bargain with you. You understand? You accept the plea, you accept the time, you go ahead, you save the government money, you save them time and effort and manpower. If you don't believe that that white guy was a plant, then something is wrong with you. He done sold them enough drug, but they haven't hit him with that charge. They haven't did him with that charge yet, or that we know of. If you don't believe that they're gonna try to hit him with those guns in there, they saving all that for last. The drugs, the guns. They'll do another superseding indictment and add those two if he don't take the plea. If he don't take the plea bargain to the trafficking or whatever, stuff like that, they're gonna say, okay, let's add the guns to it, and let's add.
How you feel about Keefe D? He out here crying to come home, man.
Keefe D, I think is a mistravesty of justice. That Keefe D is still in jail without a bail, or they're not making his bail low enough for him to go home. For the fact of the matter is that Keefe D was told to say something by an LAPD officer who was writing a book, doing a movie, and making himself rich off of an event that happened in our culture. And that he's in jail because the cops said a lot of these things first.
The name Jonathan O.D. came up in court again. This individual was reportedly part of the freak-off circles and even appeared in past interrogation footage in 2018, describing being involved in explicit activities involving Cassie and Diddy. Jonathan was described as unhinged at the time, but today he's being taken seriously, and there are whispers in court that he may take the stand. In perhaps the most painful part of her testimony, Cassie described how repeated freak-off encounters left her physically ill. She said she suffered from persistent infections that no longer responded to treatment, something doctors struggled to manage. The court did not dwell long on the graphic medical details, but it was clear this wasn't just emotional trauma, it was physical, long-lasting, and debilitating. This trial is revealing more than anyone expected. What started as a civil lawsuit has now turned into a deep probe into an alleged empire of silence, control, and fear. More witnesses are lined up, more secrets are about to be aired, and with Cassie's assistant preparing to testify under federal protection, the story may only get darker from here. Subscribe for daily recaps as this trial continues to unfold. We're watching history happen, moment by moment.
She was wearing a tight brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy, and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love, and this was the only alone time that she could get with Diddy. And it got to a point where this was kind of the only emotional connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him.